deploy a national force.
Mike 324, 20 Charlie, speed.
I think we need to go that way.
Thanks for joining us here on 23 ABC News. I'm Veronica Morley, your senior reporter. Today marks 1 year since the largest wildfire in Kern County history, and residents out here are still working to rebuild their lives. The Borel fire burned nearly 60,000 acres, tearing through homes, history, and habitat, leaving entire communities in ashes. Your neighborhood reporters were on the ground as the flames spread, hearing from families in real time, seeing the devastation up close. Tonight, we return to those same neighborhoods to check in on the people, the places, and the promises made to see what changed and what's still missing. We begin with senior reporter Mike Hart, who returns to those early moments in the chaos and the response that followed.
The Borel fire began as a vegetation fire, and within 48 hours was a full-blown wildfire. I'm Mike Hart, your senior reporter. It leveled the town of Havilah. I caught up with County Fire Captain Calif from Station 78 in Paiute, and he took me on a tour through the Borel footprint, where he found himself and his crew in the eye of the firestorm.
There was like 5 houses on that street. They're all gone, every one of them.
Captain Calif joined me for a trip down memory lane, more like a nightmare on this street.
324, go ahead and just stage for now.
And he's seen a few in his 20 years in the Kern River Valley, but nothing like this.
So we're looking good.
I was looking east, and the fire had gone through, and I could just see homes on fire out in these hills that I didn't even know they were there.
When the Borel fire started on July 24th, Captain Pete was 60 miles away, working overtime at County Station 53 on Taft Highway and Old River Road. And it wasn't until 36 hours later he was called into action.
I got the last houses on the
My cell phone rang, and it was one of our chiefs from way up the chain. And he said, hey, we're going to send a strike team to the Borel fire and would really like you to go.
Pete met up with his strike team at the fire station in Lake Isabella and began driving through Bodfish and up towards Havilah. That afternoon, the Borel fire decided to help convince people to go.
Somebody came over the radio that said the fire has crossed Caliente-Bodfish Road in Havilah and is running to the east. And we looked at each other and we were like, no, the fire's up there. That's not possible.
We're on Paiute 324.
This is where we stopped in my fire engine.
Captain Pete and his crew headed back towards Havilah just as the fire swept in on all sides of them.
There was a house on fire right in front of us with a propane tank venting. All the houses on the left side of the street that are gone now, they were on fire. And so we stopped back there and I said, we'll be safe right here. We'll let the fire burn around us.
We're good again.
And while we were sitting there, a woman pulled up in her little car. She's like, I got to get out of here. And I was like, please do not leave. Stay right here. We are going to survive right here. She said, my husband and my son, they stayed at the house. And I was like, where's the house? And she pointed at it over here somewhere. And I didn't have a response for that.
But they survived. In fact, there were no fatalities associated with the largest fire in Kern County history. Pete said this year residents were much better about clearing defensible space. It's typical, he said, following a wildfire, but he keeps preaching it.
Like, we want to help people. I don't want to see this happen ever again.
And he encourages those who can to stay.
I moved up here in 2005.
But you'd come back.
I would. It's my place. It's my community. I'd rebuild my house right where it is. I love where I live.
Now, Captain Pete said he understands many homeowners' frustrations as a result of the devastation, but he said when you've got 50-foot-high flames a mile wide, no amount of planes, helicopters, bulldozers, or firefighting personnel will be able to stop it. He said at that point, all you can do is manage the chaos. In Havilah, I'm Mike Hart, your senior reporter.
One of the significant losses of the Borel fire was the historic town of Havilah, once the original county seat of Kern. The museum, built as a replica of the 1800s courthouse, stood as a reminder of that past. But when the fire swept through, it left the historic town bare. The museum and its collections gone. Governor Gavin Newsom visiting the town after the fire, surveying the destruction, and now volunteers with the Havilah Historical Society are working to rebuild, navigating modern building codes, water access, and permit challenges, all to preserve a piece of Kern County's roots. While no lives were lost during the Borel fire, some lost everything else. Many have chosen to leave, some have chosen to rebuild. But for others, 12 months later, they're barely hanging on to what little survived the flames. We want to warn you that some of these images may be disturbing to some viewers. When's the last time you ate, Danny?
The ISO chips you just gave me.
Before that, when was the last time you ate?
About 3 days ago when I got out of the hospital.
Danny Gonzalez has lived in Havilah since 1988, working construction and mechanical jobs. For 36 years, he built a life with a home and 3 cats.
And my trees, I had trees that lined up my driveway. I had all kinds of trees and everything.
Those trees and his home reduced to ash in the Borel fire. With no family and mounting health issues, Danny spent 6 months sleeping upright in his truck in a friend's driveway.
Just sitting straight up. Boy, that was so hard.
Eventually, local groups like the Kern River Valley Bridge Connection and Flood Ministries stepped in, offering food and shower access. But a car accident left him hospitalized again with a broken leg. He was released back to his trailer. Use some more water or something, okay? No power, no well, no phone. What have you been doing these last 3 days?
Just laying here wishing I could get out and go get something to eat and feed my cats and get this off and not be in pain.
Danny's property was cleared through phase 2 of the state's debris removal program. Kern County Assistant Director of Environmental Health, Amy Rutledge, says his parcel is one of 158 cleared in Havilah, 86 of which have received final sign-off to begin rebuilding.
The rest are in process of being worked on for various reasons, and we have successfully issued 3 permits through our land and water program for rebuild, which means that they are at that stage that they need a well or a septic system.
Fee waivers have been put in place to speed up permitting for fire victims, but recovery has been slow.
We had challenges such as weather as well as access issues because of the rural nature, and I know that can be really difficult, especially for some of these individuals who, you know, their whole life is there or generations have been there.
So far, only 7 permits have been submitted to rebuild. The fire destroyed 223 structures, including Danny's.
I hear about people getting all kinds of money and they're getting help from this and that, but I haven't gotten. I call up and they just hang up on me. They don't do nothing for me. I don't know why. I spent my whole life that I bought. I mean, I worked a lot of years and worked hard to get what I had, and it all burned up in one day.
Now, after leaving Danny that day, I reached out to some medical professionals who were able to send somebody out to check on him that evening, and they actually called him an ambulance to take him to the hospital. Now, he's since been released from the hospital again, and I came back a few days later to check on him and was fortunate to find that some of his neighbors were also out here making sure he was okay. When the Borel fire started, it moved fast, catching many by surprise. Officials say having a plan before disaster strikes could save lives and property. That includes creating defensible space around your home, a buffer zone that slows or stops the spread of wildfire.
What we learned on the Borel fire is that, as usual, there are individuals that feel as if they don't need to heed the evacuation warnings or orders. And then eventually they realize that the conditions are dire and that their health or their life is in jeopardy.
Protecting your property is only part of being ready. If you have pets, you're encouraged to prepare a go bag that includes their food, medications, and even their microchip number. For more preparation tips, you can download the Ready Kern and Genesis Alert apps, which will send you alerts directly to your phone.
It's been 1 year since the historic Borel fire impacted the town of Havilah, and residents are still rebuilding. I'm Ruby Rivera, your neighborhood reporter, and I'll have the story on one man who's making quite the recovery. In Havala, residents are embracing the challenges of rebuilding as they find refuge in mobile homes, RVs, and even tents. I'm Ruby Rivera, your neighborhood reporter, and although many have decided to leave, one man has taken an extraordinary path. Over the past year, he's transformed his property into what he calls Camp Carruthers.
The house basically sat from this trailer right here going back to about the back of the floor of this other deal that we're building now.
We first met Mark Carruthers last year as he was caring for his bull, Curly, soon labeled as the town's mascot after surviving the Borel fire, but later died. And a year later, campgrounds still overtake the place where his home used to stand.
This is what we call Camp Carruthers.
The makeshift camp consists of trailers, tents, and clotheslines, which Carruthers and his family hoped would be a short-term solution. However, it has become anything but that. When the fire broke out, Carruthers tells me he, along with his neighbors, never imagined it would spread into the area. The family only packing enough for 3 to 4 days.
We bought this place in 2006, and so we had been here for 18 years, raised our kids in this house and everything else, and that was gone.
Returning to the site after the lifted evacuation orders, surviving structures included their chicken coop, their pool, and charred brick walls of a place that used to be home. A place that Carruthers says he was determined to bring back to life.
Fire was July 26th. To give you an example, cleanup happened on this particular property in December.
The family had been staying at a friend's home in Lake Isabella as they waited and waited until they were allowed back in. Grateful to be back on their property, the goal was to immediately start gathering supplies to build their home. However, Carruthers tells me the camp exists because they're still working on getting their rebuilding permits, and they say the delay in receiving them have set them back months. So far, they've only been able to restore the well and some electricity. And with the months going by and still living out of trailers and tents, Carruthers has added a new step into his plans.
What we're building right here is a temporary 16 by 32 trailer okay, that we can stay in while we build our house.
Carruthers says although it's unfortunate to see families gone, he's continuing to hold out hope that by this time next year, he'll be sitting out on his new front lawn.
Life is going to go on. Life is going to continue.
Although it's been a long and difficult journey, Carruthers says he's proud of what they've been able to accomplish given their circumstances and hopes that in June of 2026, this will look more like a home and less like a camp. For 23 ABC News, I'm Ruby Rivera, your neighborhood reporter.
The Borel fire did much more damage than destroy homes. I'm Priscilla Lara, your neighborhood reporter. The fire also had a direct impact on wildlife species in the area, an impact that may take years to heal. I'm Priscilla Lara, your neighborhood reporter. As the Borel fire raged through areas of the Kern River Valley, it displaced several residents, but it also had a significant impact on wildlife habitats and ecosystems.
Majority of wildlife can get out of a fire. The ones that are most vulnerable are, the young or elderly or sickly animals.
During a fire, wildlife experts say that animals, big and small, are affected and are often displaced by it. With fires being a natural occurrence, Meg Maitland with Calm Zoo says animals have learned to adapt to these situations.
So you'll have animals that are used to having food in one area that's no longer available to them. So they have to adjust, they have to adapt. On occasion, you'll see animals that have been pushed out of their habitat that come a little bit more close to humans and our ecosystem as well.
With several animals being driven out of their homes, District Manager with the Bureau of Land Management, Gabe Garcia, says the rebuilding of their habitat depends on the severity of the burn.
On the Borel fire, there were some areas that were burned very, very hot. And so those areas, wouldn't be suitable, for several years. And then other areas, it just kind of went through kind of like a prescribed fire and didn't burn as hot. And so those areas, rehabilitate pretty quickly.
But not everything is bad news. Maitland says fires can also have a positive impact on certain ecosystems.
There are a lot of plant species that require heat and fire to actually germinate and be able to reproduce. It also aids in the kind of clearing out of overgrowth and allows more sunlight in to help regenerate some of those areas that have been overrun and bring in new life.
Like humans, experts say it may be a while until wildlife can recover and rebuild their habitats. For 23 ABC, I'm Priscilla Lara, your neighborhood reporter.
1 year ago, the Borel fire tore through Havilah, leaving devastation in its wake. I'm Riley Nagel, your neighborhood reporter. The scars remain, but so does the strength of Kern County, where neighbors rose up for one another when it mattered most. I'm Riley Nagel, your neighborhood reporter, and I'm here in Havilah 1 year after the Borel fire tore through this once tight-knit community. While the devastation is overwhelming, the response from Kern County proves that there's always someone ready to step up for their neighbors in their darkest moments.
Unfortunately, we're not strangers to wildfires in Kern County, but the Borel fire was the biggest one in our history. Getting a first-hand look at how somebody's life got destroyed it's bad. I mean, it's devastating.
Aaron Falk with the Kern Community Foundation says as flames raged in surrounding areas, his team went into Havilah to assess the damage.
And the only standing structure is a fireplace. And you just know that somebody's entire existence got wrecked by this thing.
Roughly 220 structures were destroyed, 150 of them homes. With funds raised and resources already set aside for wildfire response, the foundation donated about $183,000 to support recovery efforts, funneling money to several nonprofits, including United Way.
Whether it was winter clothing, we also provided some hygiene kits, appliances for the families that lost their house and everything and were displaced into other communities.
The American Red Cross also received support setting up shelters in Lake Isabella, Tehachapi, and Ridgecrest.
We provided cots, blankets, warm meals, and lots of support.
Cindy Hughey says they spent 18 days on the ground helping displaced residents find both temporary and permanent housing.
I don't have to worry about anything right now except waiting for what's going to happen with the fire. I don't have to worry about my pets. They provided everything I needed just in case I didn't bring it.
I'm here with my dog. They even accept the dogs. And I'm happy. I mean, I'm sad because of the fire, and I'm acting a little silly, but I'm happy.
Though Hughey and the countless volunteers were making a difference, she says when they visited Havilah, she came across a man outside what was once his home who reiterated several times to her that he had lost everything.
So I asked him, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, well, my wife died a year ago of cancer, and now I'm alone. And I said, you're not alone, because the American Red Cross is here, and we will help you through this. It's hard to put it together, but I got into the car after he left, and I cried. I thought, that could be anybody.
1 year later, recovery efforts continue. Falk says because of the LA fires, which broke out in January this year, were larger, those areas garnered attention from the state government to streamline rebuilding efforts.
We're not going to get that in Kern County. The people will bounce back. I don't know if the community will come back. The people are pretty tough.
Falk says to this day, they are still donating to organizations supporting those impacted by the Borel fire and asks families to stay strong.
When you have an act of God like this, you may never understand why something happened, but to know that county's got your back, the government's got your back locally, not every area has that. So hopefully that's appreciated.
If people want to support the Kern Community Foundation and their continued efforts, Falk says there's still a lot of work to be done and to reach out to them. Reporting in Havilah, I'm Riley Nagel, your neighborhood reporter.
As recovery continues in the Kern River Valley, we wanted to highlight some of those who stepped up during these trying times. Friends Wendy Ward and Karen Zuber helped connect fire victims with resources from food and showers to emotional support and disaster relief.
We shut down our store and our restaurant, and we opened it up for the evacuees.
This mini market in Inyo Kern was turned into a donation center for those impacted to come and get needed supplies. And Kern County firefighters rescuing this dog who was found with burned feet on a dirt road near the fire. He was named Walker and ended up getting adopted. While the flames may be gone and many jumped in to help, the work doesn't stop there. The fight to rebuild is far from over.